Kenya is bracing for another significant protest on August 8, 2024, dubbed the Nane Nane March, led primarily by Gen Z. This new wave of demonstrations, which began on June 18, 2024, marks the seventh week of continuous protests against the administration of President William Ruto. Initially triggered by the now-withdrawn Finance Bill 2024, the protests have evolved into a broader call for President Ruto's resignation and systemic governmental change. The protest name, Nane Nane, which means 8-8 in Swahili, draws inspiration from the historic Saba Saba 7-7 protests of the 1990s. This choice of name signifies a deep-seated demand for political reform and a nod to Kenya's history of civil unrest and the struggle for democracy. The action plan for the Nane Nane March involves a meticulous and well-organized mobilization strategy, leveraging various social media platforms. From July 24th to July 27th, activists focused on spreading the word through TikTok, WhatsApp, Facebook, and Twitter, X. On TikTok, netizens were urged to create and share videos widely. On WhatsApp, participants were encouraged to update their status and share information with their contacts. Meanwhile, Facebook and Twitter, X, were used to post and share messages to raise awareness. Between July 28th and July 31st, the emphasis shifted to securing transportation, ensuring that people from all 47 counties could travel to Nairobi for the march. This included arranging buses, organizing carpooling, and facilitating group transportation. From August 1st to August 4th, the focus moved to organizing accommodation, with Nairobi residents being encouraged to open their homes to fellow marchers. Partnerships with local hosts and hotels were also established to offer discounted rates, and temporary shelters were set up for those in need. In the final days leading up to the march, from August 5th to August 7th, all transportation and accommodation arrangements were confirmed, and final briefings were conducted with volunteers and coordinators. The organizers emphasized that the march would be peaceful, despite previous protests being marred by violence, looting, and clashes with law enforcement. Underlying grievances and demands? The protests reflect the growing frustration and demands of Kenya's youth. A significant catalyst for these protests was the Finance Bill 2024, which proposed a series of tax increases that many Kenyans found unacceptable. Although the bill was eventually withdrawn, the protests continued, evolving into a broader movement calling for the resignation of President Ruto and a complete overhaul of his administration. One of the key grievances is the perceived lack of integrity and accountability in the current government. Despite the protests, President Ruto reappointed 11 individuals to his cabinet, some of whom were seen as having questionable integrity. This move has been seen as a blatant disregard for public outcry and has further fueled the protests. Social media has played a crucial role in organizing and sustaining the protests. Platforms like TikTok, WhatsApp, Facebook, and Twitter, X, have been instrumental in spreading information, mobilizing participants, and coordinating logistics. This digital mobilization has allowed the protests to maintain momentum and has made it difficult for the government to suppress the movement. Previous protests, such as the July 18th #Occupy Uhuru Park and the July 25th #Occupy JKJ demonstrations, faced significant resistance from law enforcement. The acting Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, initially placed a ban on the July 18th protest, which was later lifted by the High Court. Despite this, the July 25th protests resulted in the arrest of several netizens, including prominent activist Boniface Mwangi. Law enforcement's response has been marked by accusations of excessive force, with reports of deaths, injuries, and cases of police brutality. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights reported that the protests have resulted in 39 deaths, 361 injuries, and numerous instances of excessive force by law enforcement. The Nane Nane March symbolizes a critical moment in Kenya's history. The youth-led movement is not just about opposing the current administration, but is a call for systemic change and accountability. The organizers emphasize that they are fighting not just for themselves, but for future generations, seeking to realign the system and ensure better governance. As the date of the march approaches, the determination and resolve of the protesters remain unwavering. Despite the challenges and the risks, they are committed to making their voices heard and pushing for meaningful change in Kenya's political landscape. Remember to like and subscribe for more.